Alright everyone, let's talk about the state of the game with Raid Shadow Legends. Now this is something I've been trying to do for a little while. I think now is the perfect time to do so, and I normally don't end up uploading more than once per day. I also normally don't end up uploading in the evening hours, but I wanted this to be in addition to the regular videos that I normally do, so nothing is happening with that. This is just kind of a little bonus, and because it's going to be a bit different, I'm going to throw in a bit more opinions and my own personal views, much more than I do so in my regular videos. I didn't really want it to kind of interrupt with what I normally do on the channel. But with that being said, there's definitely been a lot of discussion in the Raid Shadow Legends community about kind of the direction the game has been going. And I know I talked about this a bit, at least in my first video that had to do with this Extreme Fusion Challenge. I ended up making two videos about this. The first one was just kind of an update with stuff that's coming up soon, including this Void Rush. And I definitely ranted maybe a little bit more than I wanted to in that video. I'm not saying that I regret it, but again, I really try to keep my videos as informational as I can, and I try to save the rant type stuff for videos like this. Second video, I kind of just went over the event in details, but now I really wanted to not just talk about this event specifically, but I wanted to talk about the state of the game and what I believe the future of Raid Shadow Legends is going to be looking like over the next couple of months. Now, a lot of people have been very unhappy since this event came out because we have really desperately been waiting for a lot of things in Raid Shadow Legends. Now, in the first video that I ended up making about this Extreme Fusion Challenge, I touched on the topic of content a lot. The game has been, well, the game as in Plarium has been promising us lots and lots of stuff for a long time now, and they have not been delivering. Now, this is a huge problem. This is definitely the norm for any business to not follow this type of model. And I think it was Chofly Mobile Chosen. I think it was in his video that he said that Plarium makes the really big mistake with Raid Shadow Legends of over-promising and under-delivering. And those of you guys that don't know, I do work full-time. I do work in the service industry, and one of the very first things that we are taught as employees of the service industry is to never ever do that, and that especially goes for Plarium. You never want to overpromise and underdeliver, because then you end up in situations like this where people have been expecting so much stuff for so long, and now that we're getting close to the end of the year and we are just looking at a tiny fraction of the stuff that Plarium has promised us, it leads to a lot of problems, especially when the game just keeps recycling the same type of stuff like fusion challenges and summon events over and over. We have been seeing these events so much lately, and I started in April. Yes, there were a lot of summon events. There were not as many as there are now. We didn't really have too many of these fusion challenges. I think Foley was really the first big one after the Sir Nicholas one. We did have summon events, but it was specifically just the Summon Rush, and they also were much smaller. I think they were like 1,500 or 2,500 points. The game has really ramped up the summoning related and spending related events an insane amount over the last few months. And let's just take a look at that roadmap that Plarium ended up showing us many months ago. Now, I'm not only going to end up showing you the roadmap, but I want to show you guys the original forum post posted by Plarium. And this is right here. Greetings, Raiders. Update 1.9 introduced some of the long-requested features to the game, like new dungeon stages and powerful legendary artifacts. Those are some big updates, but that's not all, and we know you want more. So today the time has come to shed some light on our plans and share our current development roadmap for Raid. With that said, here's what we have coming up over the rest of 2019. Now, that last sentence was a huge mistake, especially coming from a multi-million, something, I don't know how many millions, it's hundreds of millions, it might even be multi-billion-dollar company owned by a massive casino company. That last line was a major mistake, and I don't know whose idea it was to put that in the roadmap. But to say that that was promised content over the rest of the year, and we are looking at maybe just a little over 1/3 of the way through the roadmap now with just 6 weeks left in the year, that was a big mistake. And that's what's led to this overpromise and underdeliver kind of model that Plarium has unfortunately been following since they released this roadmap. So I really do think that if they didn't end up saying over the rest of 2019, I think the negativity would honestly be a bit less. I don't think it would be gone, because there's definitely many other problems with the game, but I think the fact that they said that this was the content that we can expect over the next at the time they released it, it was 4 to 6 months or so. I think that's a problem, considering how slow it has been since they ended up planning out and releasing this roadmap. Now, another thing that I wanted to mention, I actually ended up making a video about this, and I can say I was 100% wrong. I did not think that I would have to make an update on this video something like a month later, and that had to do with this Nightmare campaign teaser. I thought to myself that when this teaser came out, it might have only been a couple of days, maybe a week or 2 weeks at most, before we ended up seeing the Nightmare campaign. Plarium was throwing teasers. They've done that before with Faction Wars, and it was only a couple weeks or so until Faction Wars came out when they ended up releasing teasers like this. They did this with the Nightmare campaign, and here we are pretty much exactly 1 month later, and the only things that we've had since this teaser has been, I think, 3 or 4 summon events and 2 fusion events, and nothing else. We've really heard no news. Now, we know that patch 1.12 has been in progress for a long time now, and it's been coming soon for a long time now, and this is supposedly the patch and update that is going to have the Nightmare campaign, Platinum Arena, the Faction Wars rebalancing, something else that I honestly have not talked about in a while. I know some other Raid Shadow Legends YouTubers have talked about it, but Faction Wars has been planned to be in the works of being rebalanced for a long time now as well. It's way too difficult, and Plarium has acknowledged that it is way too difficult, and they said that they are rebalancing it, and that when they finish rebalancing it, which is going to be coming soon, that it would be significantly easier, and that players would definitely notice a huge change. Now, this has also been planned for a while now, at least several weeks, maybe a month plus. This is probably the news of this came out similar to when we ended up getting the Nightmare campaign teaser, and here we are still with no update on that. Now, I don't want to get too far into the tinfoil hats. I know a lot of you guys think I'm very right with my tinfoil hat predictions, but part of me thinks to myself, I wonder if they intentionally made Faction Wars really difficult at first to get people with all the major rosters with just tons of legendaries to go super hard, spend a lot to try to beat Faction Wars, and then they are going to end up nerfing it later on for the rest of the players. Now, that's really a huge tinfoil hat theory. I cannot confirm this at all. This is just a rumor, so definitely don't think that it's 100% true, but at least a little tiny bit of me thinks that it is a somewhat realistic possibility, especially considering the kind of stuff that we've been seeing from Plarium recently. I'm starting to think these tinfoil hat rumors that I have are becoming more and more true. So that's kind of the negative stuff when it comes to content out of the way. I think a lot of people feel the way that I do. A lot of people are very disappointed with the fact that Plarium has been following this overpromise and underdeliver, and it's just more frustrating when all the stuff that they've said they've done and then they end up releasing more difficult fusions that just really don't look good. Now, I don't know exactly how much it's going to cost in order to complete this fusion. It looked pretty similar to the Harvest Jack fusion. It's just a bit shorter. I know that a lot of these drops are super RNG dependent, and you can get really unlucky in like the Ice Golem's Peak, Fire Knight, Spider's Den, Dragon's Lair, and not end up getting those rare champions, and then you are pretty screwed when it comes to completing this fusion. But I don't really know exactly how much it would cost to finish this. I don't think Plarium ended up releasing this event intentionally to try to milk people. I think that they really just have a major problem when it comes to communication and updates in Plarium. And you can see this as somebody who makes YouTube videos, and I've heard this from other people who make YouTube videos. The communication is very minimal. And I think that, again, this is just my prediction. I think that Plarium and their parent company, Aristocrat, I have a feeling like a lot of their development and a lot of the company is based under a guideline where every decision needs to be justified by having something contribute to their bottom line. And I know this because I've worked for companies that have very similar policies. I know friends who work for companies, even game companies, who have very similar policies and kind of strategies and approaches when it comes to monetization. And what I mean by that is whenever they are going to invest resources, which is probably going to end up being employees' time or marketing money, part of their budget to get the game promoted, every decision needs to be justified in the short term, saying, we think that this is going to end up making us money. And I think that's why a lot of these development updates have been so slow, is because development updates really in the short term, giving people content in the short term, it's not going to increase the ranking in the App Store. it's going to be a long-term investment. It's a real big shame that Plarium doesn't understand how much people actually enjoy this game. I think that when they ended up coming out with Raid Shadow Legends, they did not expect it to get to the size the game is right now. I think that they released it with the strategy of, let's just get people to download it, maybe buy a few packs, people are going to quit, and that'll be that. But I don't think they realize how big the game has actually gotten, and there really are many thousands of players who actually enjoy the game a lot, and they would really be missing out on a whole bunch in the long term if they stuck with their current plans of just kind of trying to squeeze people and not really caring about the longevity of the game and player retention. I really think that Plarium right now, the way that they see the game is, it's okay if somebody quits if there are 2 more people that replace them. And it's okay if those 2 people quit after a week, if there are 2 more people to replace them and they end up buying a couple of packs from the store. But this is a big mistake. And yes, they might end up making some money in the short term, but honestly, I hope they realize that the strategy that they're using now is honestly much more difficult in order to accomplish than what they have right now. They have the community. The community is there. People are there willing to spend. They just need to do a little bit and think to themselves that they need to make just a few little sacrifices in the short term to get a whole massive return in the long term. That's all they need to do. And I really think they are one update away from losing a massive chunk of players. I know there are always people saying that they are going to quit, and yes, there are always people quitting, but I think that this is a really big straw for a lot of people. I personally think that if the next announcement from Raid Shadow Legends and from Plarium is not either content or quality of life changes, which is something that I haven't even really touched up on at all in this video, something else major that we have been asking for ages. I think that if it's not one of those 2 things, that it's really going to be the final straw for a lot of people. I think that after this fusion, which ends in 8 days, we'll see around the time of Thanksgiving, end of November, start of December, if they just move on to another fusion, or if they just move on to another set of champion training, summon rush, champion, this, that, arena tournaments, and it's just the same kind of cycle of the stuff that they've been doing for a while now, and we have no update on patch 1.12, quality of life updates, nightmare campaign, the roadmap, any of that stuff. I think that's going to be really bad for Plarium in the long term. I really do. And I wanted to really talk about this and also ask you guys kind of how you feel about this as well. I know I've watched a lot of other YouTubers. I watched Dark Microtransactions video the other day. It was a great video. I think he touches up a lot on the quality of life kind of features that people have been asking for a long time, which I didn't really end up talking too much about in this video, like more champion storage, more artifact storage. I mean, it's just insane. This is stuff that is going to benefit them too. They can charge gems for this. They can charge gems and money and make money from these quality of life changes. I really think that, I honestly do think that, yes, Plarium does have a problem where they do want to have every decision be justified by making money in the short term, going back to that business model of every decision and all resources invested need to have an impact on the bottom line immediately. But I also really do think that there is a big problem with communication in the company as well. Maybe it's too big. Maybe, the wrong people are making the big decisions. I don't know what it is, but I don't think that that's the absolute only reason. I really do think that a lot of it just simply has to do with a lack of communication between the different departments. Just too many moving parts and not enough grease. That's kind of the analogy that I can end up giving. So I also wanted to end off by saying, no, I don't have any affiliation with Plarium at all. They end up giving me a few free gems here and there. I've sent a couple messages to them. They've replied to me once. That's it. No kind of deals or anything like that. I am welcome to say whatever I want, and all these opinions are 100% my own. You guys can trust me when I say that if there's anything that I want to talk about on my YouTube channel, whether it be positive or negative, if I feel like it's something that needs to be said, then I am going to say it. And there is nothing, no contracts, offers, money, any of that is going to stop me from this, because it's my YouTube channel. And if I need to do something or say something, it's going to get done. So This is definitely a video that I've wanted to do for a while and kind of just tell you guys my opinions about, and I'm really hoping that you guys feel similarly compared to me. So I'm going to leave it here. You know, this is kind of one of those videos where I could end up going on for probably an hour about, but I know that's not the best format for YouTube, maybe a podcast type format, but definitely not for YouTube. So with that being said, that's going to be it for kind of this update on the state of the game for Raid Shadow Legends. If you guys enjoyed this discussion type video and you want more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to help out, tossing a quick like only takes about a quarter of a second, and it really means a whole bunch. So thank you to all of you guys who do that. More videos, guides, tutorials, and all that fun stuff should also be popping up on the screen right about now. So if interested, feel free to check them out. But if not, until next time, have a fantastic day, everyone. And this is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.